I get asked this question all of the time: how are you able to make a career out of music? And I will always answer this question with all honesty. It is not the easiest thing. There are 3 things that I've seen stop artists from making a breakthrough in their career. If you don't know me, my name is Brandon Miranda. I'm a mixing engineer and producer and been able to work with amazing artists including La Russell, 310 Baby, and Justin Bieber, and I've had plenty of my records placed in TV series, commercials, and great production libraries. It is my purpose with every video that I create to help give clarity, guidance, and be a source of confidence for music makers wanting to take their career to the next level. In this video, we're going to cover some of the most common pitfalls that artists go through in their careers. And make sure you stick to the end where I have my solutions and my suggestions to overcome these financial obstacles. Okay, so number 1, and probably the one that everyone talks about over and over again, but it is so true. The biggest mistake most people make in any artistic field is lack of consistency. A lot of times people get super hype in a moment, they learn a new skill, they learn a new craft, whatever it is, and they just go really hard on that thing for just a short season, sometimes a month, sometimes 2. Then they come across their first obstacle or they get their first rejection, and then they just quit for like 3 months, right? This is a really, really scary pitfall, and a lot of people do it so often that it actually turns into a habitual thing. There are so many creatives out there and there's so much content to compete with that if you are not willing to do the work, even when it's difficult, you are going to get swept away by all the other people who are willing to work way harder than you are. And don't get me wrong, we all run into seasons where we're just not as motivated. I've gone through it. A lot of my colleagues have gone through it. It just happens, right? But the main question is, if you get off track, if you get off your habits, if you get off your routines, if you get off your disciplines, do you have the inner strength and the discipline it takes to quickly course correct and get back into your flow? It's totally okay to have pivots here and there, and I think having a forgiving atmosphere for yourself is going to actually help anyone overcome a lack of consistency, but you have to be willing to quickly course correct and get right back into that discipline that you set up for yourself. Number 2, and this is one that I still haven't seen anyone talk about just yet, but it is a lack of research. Now, I'm talking about research into the finances of being a musician. If I ask you the question right now, is $250,000 a good record deal? What would you say to that? And right now, some of you might say, yes, that sounds like a tremendous amount of money. But here's a catch. Do you know that you have to pay taxes on that? Do you know how many years that $250,000 is stretched upon? Because if it's 2 years, that's $125,000. And if it's 4 years, that's only $60,000 a year. And trust me, $60,000 in California is not going to do much for you in your lifestyle. Some other questions you might have to ask. Well, how are the funds going to be allocated? Do you have access to all that $250K right up from the front? You see, that's just a few of the questions and the things you have to know and understand. The other thing you have to think about and do your homework on is all the other streams of revenue that you can make and getting realistic. There's so many people out there that are saying, hey, sync is a great way to get your music heard, but do you really know how much you make from sync placements? Now, I'm happy to share. Let's do a little bit of a sidetrack. But last year, I got a placement on a TV series called All American, and there was 3 writers on it. We each got paid about $750, and then we make about an extra $150 per quarter from the residual income on that episode. Now, if I tallied everything up just for myself, I probably made about $1,500 to $2,000 from that sync placement. That's great side hustle money, but it is not going to pay my rent. These are the kinds of things you want to really, really research when it comes to choosing your career. Yes, we love making music and we make music for the love of it. If you're trying to make decisions upon your career journey just based on how much you like something, then you're missing out a huge component. Sit down and ask yourself the tough questions. How much money do you need to be happy? Do you want to travel? Do you want to have kids? Do you want to get married? Do you want to buy a home? These are all going to cost money. And then look at the different opportunities that you have in music and see which one is going to fit that bill. Ask questions, do your research, and make a very sober-minded decision upon your approach to your music career. Number 3, and probably one of the biggest ones that messes people up in the music industry, is having a poor set of expectations. The way the entertainment industry is created to look like is that people just come out of nowhere and all of a sudden get a viral hit. And I promise you, that is probably 1% of the success stories within the music industry. The truth of the matter is, the people who are really, really winning are the ones who work tirelessly and were waiting to wait several years before they saw any sort of success from their music. John Williams, one of the greatest composers, just think Jaws and Star Wars. He didn't have his first big break until he was in his mid-50s. But throughout his life, he was still devoted, dedicating himself to the craft, putting in the hard work until he had his major breakthrough. The core problem with having underdeveloped expectations in the music career is that if you don't understand how long things might take and how much effort you'll need to put into it before you even get a compliment, if you get too discouraged with how long it takes in your career, it could actually hijack you from being able to get across to the finish line to your next breakthrough. I've seen so many times people who are just about to exit the industry take one more chance, and that last chance became their major success. So really try to get inside of your heart. The fact of the matter is, it's a tough industry. You're going to put in a lot of work. A lot of people in the beginning probably won't like your work. Don't take anything personally and understand that it's a long game. One song can absolutely change an entire life. We just never really know what it is that's going to be that song that gets us there. Now, of course, I don't want to just only pose up problems. I want to be a solution. So here is my take on how to combat these 3 common pitfalls. Lack of consistency. One of the best ways to get yourself out of that habit is to actually put yourself in circumstances where you have firm deadlines. Now, I actually don't think self-imposed deadlines are very good. But if you can find either a job that hires you or a freelance gig or someone that you're going to collaborate with, when you put someone else's success on the other end of your ability to finish on a deadline, it serves as a much better motivator to finish that track. If I have to finish a record for myself, there's probably not going to be as much motivation to get it done. But if someone else's success is coming at my ability to make that deadline, I'm more likely to be honorable to that person's time. There's been plenty of times when I was fairly stagnant, just making music on my own, but then I got hired by a contractor or a big gig, and then I was forced into that situation to make beats every single day. There's definitely been a few seasons in my life where I was not making as much music as I should have been, but then there was always that gig that came along the way that forced me into an atmosphere of consistency. I couldn't say I didn't feel like it, otherwise I wasn't going to get paid. So that is my recommendation to overcome that. Unfortunately, nowadays, it's pretty easy to go online and find freelance work via SoundBetter or engineers, or even going on Craigslist and just hitting people up and seeing that they can hire you. This is going to be a great combator to any kind of lack of consistency. Number 2, lack of research. Now, I could just say go research, but we also need to know the right things to research. My recommendation is get financially minded. You want to be aggressive about your business, and those who are more aggressive and willing to negotiate and keep everything nice and organized, they're going to perform a lot better when it comes to the financial aspect of music. I was actually very blessed because I had a 9-to-5 in commercial real estate for about 4 years before I made the jump into music, but that taught me everything I needed to know about taxes, LLCs, filing, and really important, accounting and running my own books. Some great resources on music business to be able to understand the metrics and how much money is actually being transacted in the music industry is Music Business Worldwide. Warner Music Group is actually now a publicly traded company, so you can even go there and go through their financials and learn how to read their statements. And ASCAP actually provides a lot of great information about the ins and outs of the financial sectors of the music industry. So I'd say when it comes to research, 1, learn some basic accounting. 2, go through all the resources that you can and start to get a grasp of how much you can really earn in the music industry. And then also sit down and do your own budgeting and ask yourself the tough questions of how much you're willing to live with and what you want in your goals. One of the greatest acts of faith you can do in your career is to set a good plan. And 3, last but not the least, how to get your expectations right in the music industry. Well, this is when you have to get a little bit spiritual and really have to find some anchorage within yourself. Biggest one you can do for yourself is just to really accept the truth that it's going to be tough and it's okay. I hope, and it's my prayer, that it's easier for you than it was for me. But at least if you know and accept the fact that it might take some time before we even get acknowledged, you will put yourself in a great spot. One of the best things that has worked for me is to let go of anyone's approval or disapproval of my music and just to keep the relationship with the craft totally pure. My approval doesn't come from my music. It doesn't come from my skill. It comes from someplace totally different than those things. If you can learn to separate your own value of yourself from your skill or the approval you get from your skill, you will put yourself in a really great and sustainable place in your career. The other one is really cultivating a sense and strong level of patience. And I think what will help you to know too is that it doesn't matter how long it takes. Once you're there, and no one is going to question that. If you have to work a job on the way up, that's so fine. And I think it's a great thing to be able to keep yourself afloat financially and even use that income to help support your music career. Nothing wrong with that. That is rooted in a lot of wisdom. Just understand that it's going to take some time, but keep putting things out, keep sharing, keep networking, and even when you get rejected, continue the grind forward. If you master these 3 things between consistency, doing your homework, and having sober-minded expectations, then I promise you, you will see a breakthrough in your music career. I hope this is helpful, and if you feel like you have more specific questions or want to get some more tangible guidance in mastering your music career, don't hesitate to book a one-to-one session with me. It's a huge pleasure for me to be able to actually work with and counsel producers and artists on a direct basis. And if you're interested in some more technical tricks and tools of the trade, check out this playlist below where I have access to all of my tutorials. I appreciate you. Let's continue to make hits together, and until next time.